Okay, folks, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barak ala nabina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Allahumma la sahla illa ma ja'altahu sahla wa anta tajlu al-hazna idha sha'la sahla. Allahumma a'in ala dhikrika wa shukrika wa husna ibadatik ya rabbil kareem. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everybody. Everybody online and everybody local. MashaAllah, we got the gang in. Yani, MashaAllah. MashaAllah, see if there's anyone that we need to give a shout out. Hafi, I think we'll give a shout out to. And Suleiman back from the dead. Alive, Yani, or still bad, huh? A lot of people, Yani, affected by the illness. The Hurun, inshaAllah, may it be a purification for everybody. Alhamdulillah, that it's not very serious. And it was well predicted, right? We all said everyone's going to get this kind of horrible little viral infection because they're so weak. And just goes to show that the old adage of not getting too clean and separate is something that will help you, Yani, in the end. All right, so today I want to try and cover quite a bit, actually. I want to do, I'm hoping that we get to quite a significant milestone for next week. And that's what I'm hoping anyway. So let's see what we are going to do with respect to, where are we now? We are in the Arabic. وَتُقْرَهُ, yeah? Yeah, I think, yeah. وَتُقْرَهُ, write down, that's it. وَتُقْرَهُ, this is the last 5 lines of the Arabic. وَتُقْرَهُ إِمَامَةُ اللَّحَّانِ وَالْفَأْفَاء وَالتَّمْتَامِ ومن لا يفسح ببعض الحروف وأن يؤم الأجنبية فأكثر لا رجل معهن أو قوما أكثرهم يكرهه بحق وتصح إمامة ولد الزنا والجندي إذا سلم دينهما ومن يؤدي الصلاة بمن يقضيها وعكسه لا مفترض بمتنفل ولا من يصلي الظهر بمن يصلي العصر أو غيرهما. The translation of all of that is approximately, because I still haven't had the time to do my own preferred one, but basically it is makruh, it is disliked, okay, for someone to lead the prayer, and this is what we've been doing for the last few weeks, all right? Although it's been a few weeks since we've been here. Is it 3 weeks? 2 or 3 weeks, so maybe folks who are who I guess maybe don't know, yeah, it has actually been a few weeks since we've been in Jiro. But basically we have been covering those that have been keeping up with the online lessons. It is disliked, it is makruh, offensive, the right word you want to, abominable, whatever word, is your fancy. It is disliked for someone to lead the prayer when he, number one, he makes grammatical mistakes. Number two, he stutters on the fa, or on the fa, wa tam, is just that fa, we spoke about that, yeah. Number three, he does not pronounce some of the letters. That's also, that was not there in the Arabic, was it? No, yeah, okay, yani. He does not, pronounce some of the letters, okay. He leads one or more foreign women, ajnabiyya, unaccompanied by a man, meaning that there's one or more women that you're leading in prayer and there's no other guy in that jama'ah, okay? And number 5, the majority dislikes him for a valid reason. The majority, meaning the followers, the audience, dislike him, meaning the imam, for a valid reason. It's disliked for him to lead the prayer in that situation as well. We continue. It is valid for an illegitimate child, meaning a child of adultery, all right? A waladu zina, or a soldier, to lead the prayer providing their religion is sound. It is valid for someone, this is the Hanbali position, of course, right? We'll come to this. It is valid for someone making up a prayer to lead someone praying the current prayer. I don't know what that to be led is there for. It is valid for someone making up a prayer to lead someone praying the current prayer, and the opposite. It is not valid for someone praying a supererogatory prayer, nafil prayer, to lead someone praying an obligatory prayer, nor for someone to pray dhuhr behind someone praying asr, and other prayers like that. Again, Hanbali position. Again, Hanbali official position. Again, we've actually covered this, I think, in quite a bit of detail, and we're going to obviously revise that point again. We're going to revise this point again because it is a useful one. So that's what we're going to be covering today. So where did we get to? We've actually done all of these 5 except the 5th one. أو قوما أكثرهم يكرهه بحق. Okay, that's 252 in the text. So the Hanabila now, let's just remind ourselves what's happening. They've put their stall out and they've said these are bad situations. They don't like their imama. What have we said? Our class position is that there's no reason or evidence for us to hate their imama. If they are the most qualified, then they lead the prayer. Even if he's got a stutter, even if he doesn't recite properly, even if he's not great in all these kind of things, we're going to let him lead the prayer without any dislike. Without any dislike, because even to say something is disliked requires an evidence. It's not, sometimes we speak, like a lot of people ask me questions and I say, I don't like it, or I like it, or whatever. By the way, I've just got to say, I'm on a bit of a buzz at the moment, because he wanted it done on the down low, but mashallah, that brother just came in and he accepted Islam a few minutes ago. And that's a buzz, whenever that happens. But you know what's a buzz? When your younger brother gives you da'wah to accept Islam. His younger brother, 15 years old. He's 21. Tell me that's not sick. Alright? And his younger brother said, let's just do it quietly and privately. I said, absolutely. But I'm going to tell my peoples afterwards. He goes, you can tell who you want, bro. I said, you sick guy. So his brother gave him da'wah. He's 15 years old. And bro, this guy was just like, he was down. He goes, listen, I'm ready, man. I don't need nothing. Let's get going. I bet you sick guy. So that's a buzz. I've got to just get off my chest so that I can let the buzzness come through. All right. So, alhamdulillah. Right. So, the our point is that sometimes people ask me a question. Sometimes they ask a question and they say, what do you think about this? And I say, I don't like it, right? Or I think that's okay, right? And generally, scholars and things like that, they say that, and it's very important to differentiate what they're basically preferring from their experience as opposed to a legal statement, because I don't like that, I dislike that, I hate that is actually a legal statement. We must never forget that, right? These are the 5 legal positions, right? That something is haram, something is disliked, which is makruh, something which is allowed, which is permissible, something which is recommended, which is mustahab, and something which is obligatory, which is fard or wajib. Yeah, these are 5 legal states, and all of these positions need an evidence to establish their position. So it is important to differentiate between teachers who say that, right? I like this, I don't like this, because that statement is actually quite a common one in scholarly circles, because they're taking in more than just the fiqh of the issue. They're often taking into account the social reality, the cultural, often the political, yeah? So just keep that in mind. So this next one then, this 5th one, where the qawman, where the people that you're leading, most of them don't like the guy. Okay, what's the evidence for it? This hadith, which is a famous one, narrated by Imam Tirmidhi, right? It's in the footnotes there at the bottom, hadith number 360 in the Jami' of Imam Tirmidhi. The hadith, ثلاثة لا تجاوز صلاتهم آذانهم العبد الآبق حتى يرجع وامرأة باتت وزوجها عليها ساخط وإمام قوم وهم له كارهون. This is a famous hadith, the translation of which تقريبا is that there are three people, their prayer will not go beyond their ears. It's not going to be accepted. That's the meaning of the statement, that the prayer will not go beyond their ears. 3 people. The first of them is the runaway slave, the slave that goes AWOL, al-abd al-abiq, what's the technical thingy? AWOL, right? Runaway slave meaning that you are owned, you are legitimately owned, you are you're meant to basically follow instructions, and basically you run off. Is that runaway slave? That's it. Isn't there like in an army you would say he's gone AWOL, which is the equal crime. You'd say he's a deserter, which is an equal crime, kind of. Actually it is equal. But the slave is, similar. Anyway, we'll go with runaway slave, yeah? So the runaway slave until he returns So that's a big threat. Okay, a runaway slave until he returns. The woman who spends the night whilst her husband is angry with her. So she's done something which is unacceptable. Of course, that there's obviously fiqh behind that as well. And the imam of a people who dislike him. The imam of a people who dislike him. This hadith is interesting because Imam At-Tirmidhi himself, who is of course a master of hadith, and I don't just mean that he collects hadith, meaning he is a naqid, he is the highest level of muhaddith, able to critique hadith. In his opinion, this hadith is hasan, meaning it's acceptable. And this was also the ruling that was shared by one or two of the scholars. They didn't see it as completely catastrophic in terms of its strength. Ibn Taymiyyah would quote this hadith quite a bit. Ibn Taymiyyah clearly found this hadith acceptable. It's very interesting what Shaykh Uthaymeen says before we get to the fiqh of it. Shaykh Uthaymeen says that this hadith is weak. وَهَذَا الْحَدِيث ضَعِيف. But if it was authentic, وَلَوْ صَحَّ, and he knows that there's an argument that it could be made for it to be authentic. وَلَوْ صَحَّ لَكَانَ فِيهِ دَلِيلٌ عَلَى بُطْلَانِ الصَّلَاةِ. But if this hadith was authentic and we were going to go with it full, then legally it means that this prayer has been invalidated by these three actions, which is a very serious statement. For a slave to run away and his prayer not be accepted until he returns, that's massive news. For the woman, imagine that she is involved in argument, X, Y, Z, blah, 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 and angers her husband, prayer not accepted. And the third one is the shocking one, because it's very subjective about whether a person has the right to be upset with someone. Everybody's upset with someone these days, you know what I mean? So imagine, just because you're the imam, miskin lala, you are Christian imam. Uncle said to him, Christian imam. So clearly people are upset with my guy, if he's become Christian imam, that's some khudadi. So it's not difficult to upset people. So imagine that, for no reason, you've got this kind of status and your prayer is not accepted. So the hadith is making a big call. Now what he says is very interesting for the students of knowledge. He says, all right, وَلَوْ صَحْ وَمِنْ ثَمَّ قَالَ الْفُقَهَا بِالْكَرَاهَةِ. He goes, actually, we find that the fuqaha, even though they acted on this hadith, if they were really taking this hadith as sahih, they've got to take it to its natural conclusion and therefore use this hadith to invalidate the prayer of these three categories of people. However, the fuqaha didn't. They actually made these three categories disliked, so their action has led to their prayers being in a makruh state, not a invalid state. وقد ذكر ابن مفلح رحمه الله في النكت على المحرر أن الحديث إذا كان ضعيفا وكان نهيا فإنه يحمل على الكراهة. Some very nice point. He says that if there is a hadith which is weak and it is forbidding an act, then the act itself, so let's say there's a hadith and it says don't do this, right? This is haram. Then we find out that the hadith is weak. What we do, what Ibn Muflih, the great Hanbali scholar, although it could be argued hadith is not his forte, but this is a legal statement he's about to make. He says that when a hadith is weak, we bring down the prohibition to disliked, because a hadith is weak. And likewise, if a hadith is obligating something, and then we find out later that the hadith is weak, we reduce the obligation or the command to recommendation. So the weakness of the evidence brings the legal ruling down each time, from haram to makruh, from wajib to mustahab. This, of course, is amongst a number of opinions of the scholars when it comes to dealing with weak hadith. We've covered that a few times probably in this class, that weak hadith themselves are not pointless, not useless. And the scholars gave them use, right? They said they can be used to scare people. Targhib wa tarhib, to encourage people and to scare people. And you can only do that, encourage and scare people, in things that they've already been encouraged and scared in. So the three normal conditions that we know, what are the three conditions, folks? That is pretty widespread amongst the scholars and made famous by Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani. What are the three conditions of using a weak hadith? To benefit from a weak hadith, what are the three conditions? Prerequisites before we start to benefit from it. No. Start with the obvious. Start with the obvious. That's what Zafar said. Number one is that the hadith is not very weak, so it can't be, when we say very weak, we mean that one of the narrators in there is a liar, or that there is a significant error, or is fabricated. Yeah. So that's the first thing. All right. The second is that the area that the hadith is speaking about and going to introduce some kind of ruling in cannot be introducing new knowledge. It can only be supplementary. So whatever it's talking about, if we're going to use this weak hadith, number one, you can't be very weak, and number two, you can't be bringing us new information. So if you're telling us, for example, to be careful of something that we should be careful of anyway, we'll take it. And if it's reminding us of a good thing that we know is obligatory for us anyway, then that's a good thing. So the first condition is, so you see all of this not against Quran and Sunnah, can't go against something authentic. I know many people said that. That comes under the single statement, it can't be very weak. It can't be very weak. And it also falls into the second condition, that it is in line with the Quran and Sunnah. It's in line with something that's already been narrated. So all of you got it right, whether, one way or the other. The third though?
Is that you need to not pass it off as the only being authentic?
Correct. You need to attribute this in a way that indicates it is weak. So you'll say the statement and say it's a hadith which is weak. Or you'll say that it has been reported. When a person says it has been reported, you are automatically making it clear that we're not going to, pin our whole life on this kind of narration. You're indicating weakness, right? So these are the three conditions. So I want you to imagine, this is the position of as I said, Ibn Hajar. It's only his opinion, but the vast majority of scholars accepted this as a kind of a working rule in how to work with hadith. So that's why we don't throw the whole corpus of weak hadith away. And we can even argue that some of the top scholars even follow this, even those that have a reputation for being the masters of authentic hadith, like Imam Bukhari himself. And of course, this is the reason why we believe this, because he wrote the book Al-Adab al-Mufrad, which is full of weak hadith actually. When I say full, meaning that it's not one or two that are in there, there's a good few. Now for a person who's very aware of weak hadith and what they are, because he didn't let anything, even half a weak hadith, get into his Jami' Sahih, what we call Sahih al-Bukhari, he's very, very aware. He wanted to make a gold pure collection, the platinum collection, the untouchable collection, which is Sahih al-Bukhari. But other than that, he wrote other books and he didn't apply those same standards. So they have more weak hadith in there, and he still collected them and used them. And the scholars have pretty much lived by this rule for millennia, right? And that's that. Now what Ibn Muflih is adding is another kind of application of how to use hadith, because those three conditions, Ibn Hajar introduced that not in the field of law. He's saying if you want to use a hadith which is weak, then they got to follow these following three conditions. And the only area you can use it in is basic stuff. You can't be putting it into your aqidah, which is creed, which requires absolute certainty, right? And you also shouldn't be using it in law, because law will establish legal facts and the like, right? So he's kind of saying you use this in adab, you use this in etiquette and how you behave, and doing good deeds and staying away from haram. You use it in generalities, basically. So that's an important point, right? Now, what Ibn Muflih is saying is something a bit different. Ibn Muflih is saying that we will actually use this in a legal capacity, a weak hadith, but this is the principle that we're going to apply. If it's weak, then the rule that is stating, we're going to not consider it to be a command, but rather a weaker kind of recommendation, and a prohibition we're going to also bring down. So that's the interesting kind of comparison between the two. So Sheikh Uthaymeen says, so if it is for prohibiting, then we will bring it to dislike, but the condition is that it cannot be a da'af al-shadid, that it can't be very bad, very heavy weakness. So Sheikh says that, and to be on the safe side, it's good to take this middle path and not write off the prayer of such a person. Sheikh says, that our author has told us that it's got to be the majority of the people. It can't be just some kind of minority renegade. It's got to be the majority. So to make sure that we don't have any single people with grudges. So that obviously helps. The next thing, of course, is what about what if they're just together on falsehood? Well, that's why he said bihaq. It's got to have a rightful reason, a true reason to call this guy out. It can't be just he's an ugly guy or something, or I don't know, whatever, something which is illegitimate, right? If a person, for example, is following the Quran and Sunnah and turning around and saying to them, you need to fill the gaps more, make some space, you with the chair, come closer, don't stand at the back, bring it to the front. He's telling them to do things which are correct and right, and they're like, this guy is just a pain every time, turning around and giving us a headache, whatever, whatnot. Then it doesn't matter if it's all of them, they are to be ignored, because actually his being hated is because of establishing the Quran and Sunnah and not something else. However, the overriding point is what? Even if we don't like him, we should pray behind him. Even if we don't like him, we should pray behind him. And I just want to say that, and Shaykh Uthaymeen makes this point, he goes that, and if you're that imam, and you realize that this situation is happening, then you should try your utmost to give da'wah to these folks and to lower your shoulder and get the people on board, because to bring the hearts together is a obligation in Islam. It's like an objective that you want to try and achieve, just generally in the community, specifically, of course, in smaller, more smaller gatherings which have importance. And the masjid's gathering, it has a very important one. Those are the cream of the crop. Those are the practicing people in a community. They're the elders of the community. They're the ones of influence. So these people are to be taken more seriously than just the general masses. So the imam should make some effort and be easy upon the people, but of course to an extent. And we spoke about that a couple of months ago, how difficult it is to be an imam. Nobody's going to be happy with you. You're always going to have haters, and you have to kind of reach the balance one way or the other. All right. And by the way, this point that Shaykh Uthaymeen makes, that he's got to make the effort. He's got to make the effort to bring the hearts together, because it is not good. As I said to you, some scholars accepted this hadith. They said it's Hasan, and this hadith is authentic, and therefore you can't be a person that. And we are in that era where this whole kind of Nike, just do it, go and be who you want to be. Whatever haters gonna hate, and this, we're in that era now where people are automatically thinking that you can go and do what you want. It doesn't matter what other people think. This is unacceptable, right? This idea that I'm gonna go and just be me. This is not the same as, for example, I'm going to practice Islam, or I'm going to wear my hijab, or I'm going to grow my beard, which are obligations upon the Muslims. We're talking about people who do something silly or do something wrong, and they get called out for it, and they just say, no, I don't need to make effort. I don't need to convince you. I don't need to change your mind. No, you do. You do. If you're doing something which is questionable, or being called out by people, or that there's a concern, you do need to listen. It's obligatory upon you to listen, and it's obligatory upon you to clarify. And I'm finding that more and more. I'm finding that more and more, not just amongst the people who are not practicing, but practicing people as well, who become defensive when you call them out over an issue and think that they don't need to clarify their position. You do. The public have a right, your family have a right, your inner circles that you're speaking to on an issue, they have a right for you to clarify. The Prophet ﷺ, when he sensed that people didn't, nobody ever disliked the Prophet ﷺ, ever. But there was a moment, of course, where they were not sure what they were seeing from the Prophet ﷺ when he was walking with a woman in the dark. Turned out to be his wife, and the companions, not for 1 second, thought there was anything else. But what they did do was to kind of panic, and they kind of turned around very quickly, like, you know what, we don't want to put you in an awkward situation. We didn't even see what just happened. And he's like, no. And he goes out of his way to grab them and say, listen, just chill. This is my wife. They said, Ya Rasulullah, we didn't. No, you just should know that. Meaning that it's required for people to clarify and to explain. All right? This idea that, you understand what I'm saying, right? People are like, seem to be just happy. No, I'm upon the truth. And it doesn't matter if, I don't need to care about other people's opinions. You do need to care about other people's opinions, yeah.
You know, in some of these places like the universities and stuff like that, where people follow different methods.
Yes.
And,
You mean in a university prayer hall where people are coming together following different madhabs, yeah.
before where like one method, well, there's a group of people that said, oh, what method are you following? And Hanafi, so that we'll pray later. And you don't really have the time to have that conversation. What do you do in that situation?
So the question is basically, some people will be like Hanafis and say, well, we'll pray later, and we're not going to pray with the Jama'ah and things like that. And the one thing I was going to say is that this for us is a sensitive issue. Forget even your question. Just generally the concept of unity and especially not making the issue of not liking a person too big, right? And reducing that is actually an identity point for us. I've spoken about this before. It's the hallmark of Ahlus Sunnah that we pray behind the people of innovation, let alone the people who we don't like, let alone the people who are a pain in the backside, let alone, it's our hallmark. Why? Because it's the hallmark of the people of bid'ah to abandon congregations. It's a hallmark and an identifying characteristic of the people who are against the Sunnah to not pray behind an imam, pray separately, pray later, reject the prayer of that guy, talk about that guy. That is the hallmark of the Shia, for example, which is why their name stems from being a sect, right? That they have branched off, that they have gone away from the Jama'ah. And so whenever we come across these kind of issues, whilst they will be looking for reasons to not pray behind someone, Ahlus Sunnah are the opposite. We're looking for reasons to pray behind someone. We're just hoping that we can justify a person's prayer. And so the example in a university situation is we would look at the numbers, and if we saw that there was a significant kind of number of Hanafis that are not really wanting to to play, then we would consider, because of their number, to delay the prayer a little bit, okay, but not a significant amount. The idea of how far should you go is a subjective one. There's no right answer, right? In my opinion, the Hanafis are the most I forgot, intolerant or intolerant? Intolerant. You know, my ins and uns have gone, by the way. Yeah, intolerant people on this planet, right? And everybody else from all the other madahib are the most tolerant. They are the ones that will not cede any position, right? They insist upon everything going their way, and it's fascinating. It's fascinating to observe, and try to determine the reasons why, right? If you think about it, right? If you step back, instead of just getting angry about it, just thinking why. Is it because they've always seen themselves as the majority, right? And they think that they've therefore got, the numbers in power? Well, certainly in a lot of areas that's the case. They've been the dominant people. Is it because they are the first adopters? Certainly, in a lot of places around the world, they're the ones that got out first and established the communities, okay? Muslim kind of communities, whatever, whatnot. Is it because they're the most ignorant, meaning of their religion as a whole? Like if you were to say, if you look at the madhahib, like the Malikis as a group of people, and of course it's very lazy to do this because no one's homogenous in that kind of way, but generally, very generally, stereotypically speaking, if you were to look at the Shafi'is, they're mostly Arabs, putting aside the massive Malaysian kind of contingency, but they're mostly Arabs. And you look at the Hanabila, mostly Arabs. And whenever you think of the Arab, we've got that stereotypical idea that because they know Arabic, they know a bit more, or they're a bit more invested in their religion, or they know the Quran better. I don't think that's a incorrect stereotype. I think that is still standing true, that they know more. When you think of Paks, they're very ritualistic. They don't hardly know anything about the religion, let alone the Arabic. And so therefore, when you're in that scenario, then you go into defensive mode. When you go into a defensive mode because you don't know how to connect with a deeper level of your religion, then you start to basically become more ritualistic. When your religion is very ritualistic at a creed level and a practice level, then everything else is a threat. Everything else is because I don't understand the parameters or whatever, and so you just kind of lock down. For me, this last one is the most understandable. I don't know what your thoughts are.
What about the fact that they're possibly most vocal as well? That you hear more people saying, "Yeah, I'm Hanafi, I'm Hanafi." You'd often hear it.
And that leads to what? That leads to you believing what though? What's the significance of everyone saying I'm Hanafi?
Gives you that kind of
Confidence that nobody else should be. We shouldn't be changing. You should be changing.
But also, I think they instill in from a young age the concept of don't listen to the others. Whereas the others
Which is why it's a defensive mechanism.
yeah, but that's instilled from a young age going all the way upwards, rather than when you look at the other Shafi'is and anybody else, that's not really instilled in them, that don't listen to the other.
Yeah, I would argue that. I mean, obviously, we don't. Most of us don't come from those other households, but I've seen enough over the years to be able to make this judgment. But no, I don't think those that come from a Maliki, Shafi'i, or even Arab background, that they have to be so defensive.
I think it relates to your last question that if they don't have as much knowledge, they don't know the Arabic. So the processes they know. So anything outside of that, they will be afraid of falling into bid'ah quicker than somebody from Maliki Shafi background who's maybe got a bit more breadth of knowledge or has an idea.
So it comes back down again to the defensive position because of lack of knowledge.
And the fear factor
Yeah,
as well.
but then the fear of, well, I don't know if this is incorrect, but I definitely know that this is correct.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. The fear factor, yeah.
Not so much intolerance, but just I don't want to fall into the wrong.
Right? Yeah, and which comes across to us as just intolerant or stubborn. They're not willing to change their position or whatever. Yep.
I'm just going to say, I think for them, maybe that works for them. That rigidness is what they need to actually practice their religion.
Yeah, I think that that expression of their Islam through that rigid kind of ritualistic thing is definitely a comfort zone, and you don't want to come out of your comfort zone, and it causes confusion. I mean, who knows? But you know, like I said, that's something. Now, the reason I say this is because when I think of every community that I've lived in or been part of, it's always us, the majority, in terms of even number, let alone the madahib and legal positions, always ceding to the ahnaf, always delaying, always pushing back, always whatever, telling people don't make too much X, Y, Z. And at some point, you got to ask yourself, when does it stop? Does it stop when the numeric number changes? Like this masjid is a very interesting example, right? Because for the longest time, right, and certainly the first 10 years, right, it was just a Hanafi kind of community, the majority of uncles with a few, whatever. And over the next 10 years, this masjid is run completely as a Hanafi mosque, by the way, right?
That's the fact that the community is that big that they're not being exposed to anything else. Whereas you go to a community that's mixed, that they might get a chance to see something else. But once you don't see anything else, then anything that's different is different.
Yeah, but what if I now put to you that now a masjid like this one, which as I said, is for all intents and purposes, even though the trustees are not Hanafis, the imam is not Hanafi, the main teachers are not Hanafi, but because we don't want to rock the boat and the elders are just the elders, right? And so we let them, and now the irony is that there are more elders now that are not Hanafi, and the congregation is now numerically not Hanafi.
It took COVID to get 8 rak'ah.
These guys have been trying for 8 rak'ah for how long? And they had to get COVID in, basically, to change that. That's what kind of levels of intervention are needed, right? To de-Hanafize the Hanafis, right? I mean, I like 20 myself, but, I don't know, man. It's an interesting one. So, to go back to the point, right? This is not an easy question that you're asking, right? What do we do to keep the unity? How far do we go? You go as far as you possibly can. It gets sensitive in certain areas. Delaying the prayer is a sensitive one. Why? Because we have a very authentic, clear hadith about that. They came to the Prophet ﷺ and they said that the rulers are delaying the prayer from its time, right? So praying still in the right time, but praying it very late because it suited them. So the Prophet ﷺ told them, pray on the right time and then pray again with them, right? So what we learn, that the prayer is not to be messed about with. You shouldn't delay it unnecessarily. It is meant to be prayed as soon as possible. But unity is that important that you're going to actually knock in another one, nafal, to calm the situation, to not show. So this is a delicate one.
I just put an example from when I was in uni. It was the Maghrib time, so not a huge window or anything.
Yeah.
So we just thought that we'll pray and they can pray because it was just like again, you don't want to lock the boat, you don't know too much about it, and don't really know how to handle that situation at that particular time.
Just a question: is that because they wanted to pray later, or because they didn't want to?
Like, why would that be the case for Maghrib?
They didn't because we weren't. It was they had already read the Jama'at. We had just come a bit late and they came afterwards. So like the Jama'at has already been done.
Right.
So we started a second, or we were just about to start a second one. They were like, "Oh, you Hanafi?" And we said, "Yeah." So they were like, "We'll pray after you."
But what's the application of the Hanafi thing here? I mean, if a Jama'at's already done, and everybody agrees that the time is limited anyway.
It's not a time issue.
Oh, about who's leading and not leading.
Yeah.
Oh, right, sick. They're gangsters, you see? That's the problem. Hanafis are gangsters, bro. They're not interested in playing.
No, these guys are Hanafis.
Yeah, we know
So they
Hanafis.
want to pray with them, they're not the Hanafis.
Yeah.
Not the Hanafis.
Yes, why you blame Hanafis?
Shut up. No way. No way. No way was the non-Hanafi saying we're not praying behind the Hanafis. No, man. What kind of lucky people are those, man? Behave.
Listen, there's some wobbler boys, man.
Wobblers. Of course you can. Why not? Hamza is saying, yeah, and no, but you see, Salma, the problem with that, Salma is saying that, that it's a counter reaction to, how harsh people were. That's not the case. There's no doubt that that point is true, but this was happening way before any vocal Salafis. Right? This has been the case for donkey's years. And our parents didn't even know what bloody Salafis were when they're sticking to these things and not moving or caring. What the hell's a Salafi? Right, yeah, go on.
If you look at the UK as the example, they never had to think about it.
So in the UK, so this is one of the reasons why when we compare the UK with the US, it's very, you got to have a completely different mindset, because the US does not have a dominant ethnic reality, and that's why it's a melting pot, and their masajid really are melting pots, right? Whereas here they're not. They're very homogeneous to Pax ethnic.
Why your Hanafi's going to say, listen,
That's what, yeah. I mean, I believe that it is multidimensional. It's not just one factor, and numbers plays a very important part. And I also put to you, a lot of the time, when we're conceding, as the others, we are also conceding to the people that put all the effort in. Like some level of acceptance that these lot deserve it. They set the things up, preserve the deen. If you compare the madhahib in terms of who's locked it down, there's no one that compares to the Hanafis.
I think it's less madhahib and more
Culture.
culture.
Yeah, it is, and that's why the knowledge point comes to the forefront. I wonder if it's also due to the Hanafi madhab, Hamza saying, seem to differ more compared to the others, which generally seem more close in agreement with each other. I don't know about that. The Hanafi schools kind of generally they kind of keep it quite tight. Allah knows best. All right. What my intentions were and what's going to happen now, impossible. And I thought we were going to do this, that, whatever. All right. So, وَتَصِحُّ إِمَامَةُ وَلَدِ الزِّنَا وَالْجُنْدِي إِذَا سَلِمَ دِينُهُمَا. That the leading of the prayer is correct and valid of these two categories of people, the child of adultery and a jundi. So the child of adultery, basically, as Sheikh Uthaymeen says, that it's a child that basically is bastardized, basically, right? Not a child of a valid marriage, nikah, all right? Either two unmarried folks, or the lady is, or the man or the woman is married and in a adulterous relationship. Okay, that's what the walad zina is. And because of course, to have a legal father a legal father is absolutely fundamental in identity, in lineage, and. So that's there's no doubt that it's looked down upon to be, which I think is in every society. I don't need to explain that a child that's a child of adultery is always looked down upon. So they're saying that this is it is correct that their prayer is valid as an imam as long as their deen is good. We'll say that this condition, or putting the condition that their deen is good, is indicating that their deen is bad as a default. And I don't accept that there's no evidence to believe that either. A child of zina can be as bad as a child of normal parents, okay? A fully legal child, and there's no reason to believe that haramness is flowing, through. Okay? In identity, of course, that's something else. But in behavior, actions, and accountability, there's no evidence for that. Okay? There's no evidence for that. And anyway, Sheikh says that regardless, his prayer is going to be valid, his leadership is going to be valid, because the Prophet ﷺ said, Ya Ummul Qawm aqra'ahum li kitabillah. Let a people be led by that person who is most knowledgeable or most versed in the book of Allah. And if that's a walad zina, then so be it. End the story. Jundi, the soldier is mentioned here as well. You might be thinking, where did he come from? Right? Being compared to thingies. So you tell me, why is he in this comparative list? Why? Of the opposition of who? I hope not, bro. What kind of faith, love, unity is that, Baqwas, bro? Listen, let's put the arms down, and you want to just lead us in prayer, and then we go back at it. Ras, bro. Come on, man. What do you think? Why has our author basically thrown all the soldiers under the bus by putting them next to walad zina? Putting them next to an adulterous child. Adulterous child? A child from adultery. Adulterous child, can you imagine? What do we think? It's not actually that deep, by the way.
You're following orders from others against your will at times, possibly breaking.
Therefore, I think that's good enough. Basically, soldiers and police in general are like lowlifes of society. In general, the idea that if you think, I got to be careful, yeah. I was having a conversation today with someone, right, who's stuck in the middle of nowhere in Egypt, right? I really should be careful. Actually, I'm going to swim. Let's forget that. All right, let's not give that. No, I'm not going to tell you actually. But what I'm trying to say is that when you say the word soldier, man, all I've got is just Egyptian examples in my head. I don't know how to explain this point without cutting my own legs off. But this idea that people are patriotic to their army, it's a lie. People are doing it because they're forced to. Huh? No, they're not. You see that? You say that, right? No. You said it. Pakistan, yeah? We always think of, our army as it is, blah, 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 blah. Deep down, everybody hates them. They know they're the most corrupt organization. They take all of the money. They take all of the things. See, I don't mind speaking about Paks. What are they going to bloody do to me? They haven't done to me already. So, take the Paks, for example. They are more powerful than the president, more powerful than the political class, more powerful than all of the rich folks. They're the ones who run the country. And that's the same in every country. That's the same everywhere around the world. People fear them, people hate them, and it's the exception that you find that's why people get so excited and happy when you see like a practicing policeman or a practicing soldier. He's the exception. People are like, oh my God, he's a soldier and he's a thingy and he's all right. The asl in life, and I don't mean fiqh, I mean now, if you think about it, it's the case because they are mostly going to be doing zulm. You ask all the taxi drivers in a certain country, right? Yani what they think of the copper who's there telling them, move, get out, this, that, whatever, whatnot. You ask certain ethnicities when they go to a certain part of the world, yani, you know, right, about what they think about all of the coppers and the soldiers there. You're not living in dreamland if you think people actually genuinely respect and love their armed forces and whatever. Of course, you know, there may be hairy heroes amongst them. Of course, there's exceptions, but in principle, I'm just here to explain why is Jundi in this same sentence, because the expectation is that these are people who are enforcing zulm, as you said, on behalf of the orders of the sultan, the dictator, and they are the arm of that dictator, and therefore people hate them, and so therefore in their eyes they're not worthy or trusted or whatever. They're seen suspiciously. So all of the negativity that would be around a person that comes from bad family and acts in a bad way, and because his parents are X, Y, Z, because they're not legal parents, and you might look down upon a person, people will look down upon a soldier, be suspicious, think that there could be X, Y, Z. That's where it's coming. That's where it's coming from.
So the point is that the soldiers do certain acts not out of his choice, and similarly the child out of adultery was.
Yeah. So what are we saying? From a fiqh point of view, the Hanabila are saying that it's makruh. It is not. It is valid to be led by such a people as long as their deen is right, as long as they're righteous. We're just going a little bit further, the class position, which is that actually they don't need to prove their deen any more than anybody else. The asl of this is that even though yes they've got a bad rep, and yes historically they've been X, Y, Z, for us, nobody bears the sin of another person. Everybody comes down on a straight level, and if they're proven afterwards to be a scoundrel, a rat, a fraud, a zalim, then they're treated like they are. But until that's been proven, we take it as it is.
I think the problem you use context is Hajjaj is used it.
Yeah.
If you put it into context like that, that's when where the narrative is stemming from, and then they come in press and whatever. But they are.
Yeah, the only problem with Hajjaj is that he never was a soldier. He was always at the top of the tree. It's difficult to use Hajjaj as an example because he was always a lieutenant. He was always the vice until he became the big man himself. So, yeah. Anyway, and Sheikh says something nice actually. He says that there's no reason for us to dislike that a person or the soldier or whatever, because if we start going down this line, then everyone who has some kind of authority should be then put in the same category. Everyone. حتى المدرس في فصله. Even the teacher in his classroom. There will be some people that will see the teacher as doing zulm, right? Some people will hate him, and there will be another a section in the class that will think that he's lenient or you're a favorite student, and they show رق لبعض الطلبة ويحابيهم he's close to them, right? So therefore so he says everyone who's in a position of wilaya, of power, is exposed to being either going the wrong way or the right way. They've got to take responsibility for them. We can't just write them off as a class. You get what I'm saying? That's what he says. Yeah, we're not going to go to where I wanted to, so let's just carry on. Who else the prayer is valid from? وَمَنْ يُؤَدِّيَ الصَّلَاةِ بِمَنْ يَقْضِيهَا وَعَكْسُهُ. That the one who is making ada of salah behind the one who is making qada, okay, and vice versa. So there are three types of way that you can pray, right? There are three types of way that you can pray, and obviously fiqh salah has now been released. That was the big thing that we was keeping on the down low, but now it's out. Obviously, it is the entirety of what we're covering. Obviously, we're focusing on just a small portion, but the reason I mentioned that fiqh salah right now is because things like this are part of a complete salah course, right? So you'll find that released by Al-Maghrib. Now, in there, I remember explaining this point. There are three ways to pray, all right? Ada, i'ada, and qada. All right, what Pak's called qaza. Yeah? So, ada, i'ada, and qada. Ada is to pray the prayer once in its right time. That's what ada is. That's called to perform the prayer. Ada, like namaz ada karo, right? Ada, same kind of concept, yeah? Fulfill it properly. When you make ada, that means you prayed it correctly in its correct time once. I'ada means to repeat the prayer a second time in its correct time. So a person might repeat it because he wants to do it again with somebody else, like the hadith of Mu'adh in Isha, prayed with the Prophet ﷺ, then went to his people, led them again. His second one is i'ada, a repeat. So the first one is to perform it correctly, the second is called repeat, and the third, qada, is to offer the prayer correctly after its time. So you're offering it once and proper, but after its time, and that can be either legitimate or illegitimate. So for example, if you oversleep whilst you put on the alarms, you tried your best. By the way, I saw a screenshot today of Apple, and it had alarm, 4 names, and it said this person's awake, that person's awake, that person's awake, and the last one is not awake. Is that true? Is that part of the new iOS? No? Nobody else saw that? Huh? No, I mean there are apps out there that I remember seeing the thingy, and there are other apps that do it, but I want to know, is it native to iOS? No Apple freaks. Gone are the days. You know, this class used to be used to be something back in the day. And Android is basically, people become poor basically. Yeah, tramps like the Android tramps, that's what they've become. What's the new one? S27. What are we on now? People hate on, you know what it is? It's astonishing that people hate on Apple's numbering to 14 when Samsung are like on 36 or something. Like nobody even remembers. Honestly. So no, anyway, so the alarm system, it indicates that everybody's connected via the thingy, and when you look at your phone you can work out who's basically snoozed their alarm and who's awake, which is sick really. I mean, from a group chat point of view, family group, to wake people up for Fajr, I mean that's pretty good, right? Anyway, why are we talking about that? Oh, qada, yeah. So if you had put your alarms on and you fall asleep, you're asleep and you don't wake up, and then you wake up, your prayer is going to be qada. It's an hour past sunrise. You're going to pray now. It's still a valid prayer, right? Because you're following the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that when a person oversleeps, then let him pray as soon as he wakes up or he remembers it. So a person has a complete blackout, thinks that they've prayed, and then suddenly they realize an hour after it's finished that, oh my God, I didn't pray Asr. How on earth did I miss that? Genuine, everybody knows when the genuine example is that. That prayer is called qada, right? It's never done intentionally. That's the condition of qada. The illegitimate qada is doing it intentionally or out of negligence. So intentionally is a person basically saying, my kapre palit, that bakwas, yeah? I'm at work and my kapre palit and this jagga is palit and you fish, you're palit, yeah? So, you see that so much. And they make that decision that I'm going to go home, I'm going to pray qaza, Zohar, Asr, Maghrib, Isha, all one shot. Huh? Because they use the urinals.
Yeah, honestly, any Muslim that uses the urinal should be
Whipped. 100%. 100%. Yeah.
I remember I was like 8 years old and I noticed that it had touchpad. I never used it since then.
Allahu Akbar. I always said you're upon fitrah, Shazad Salim.
Honestly, I found it disgusting.
Since 8 years old, he never used the urinal. There's a guy's upon fitrah.
I remember when I was a young kid, like 8-10 years old, I remember all of this special.
No, listen, if you're 10, well, you're losing points here, bro. Make your mind up. Is it 8 or 10? This is important. Don't be claiming fake
Any Muslim using it right now
beats. Whipped and beats. Khalas, I'm down. I'm down. But that's why they bleed, yeah?
Yeah, that's why they believe.
Oh,
Because they made
my.
themselves believe in the verse.
Ras. Well, that's it. Shaz has spoken. End of story. Game over. So, that's intentional. Negligence is a person not putting the alarm on, right? Negligence is like knowing that if I stay awake, watch this film, X, Y, Z, I'm not going to wake up for Fajr. Haram for you to watch that film. Haram for what happens to your prayer afterwards. That's qada after the time which is not forgiven, meaning it's haram, it's sin. So that's what qada is. Okay? Alright. So what does Imam al-Hijawi say? He says that the leading of man yuaddi as-salah biman yaqdiha, ay an al-muaddi huwa al-imam. So he gives both scenarios here. The one who's praying the prayer on time, he's the imam, and the one who is behind, the ma'mum, he's the one who's making up the prayer, that this imama situation is correct. He gives an example. He says, دخل رجل والناس يصلون صلاة الظهر. That the people are all praying dhuhr, and he walks in, and دخل رجل والناس يصلون صلاة الظهر وذكر أن عليه صلاة الظهر بالأمس. Right. So this guy walks in, and they're praying dhuhr, and as soon as he stands, he realizes that he didn't pray dhuhr yesterday. He didn't pray dhuhr yesterday. Whatever the reason, doesn't matter. So now he's got to pray the dhuhr of yesterday before he prays the dhuhr of today. Now, no doubt about that. And so what our author is telling, according to the Hanabila, is that he now will make the intention for the dhuhr of yesterday behind the people who are praying the dhuhr of today. That's the example when it's that way around. And then the opposite as well. So for example, that guy, he's the imam, the one who's praying yesterday's one, and the people behind him are praying today's ones. They might put him forward as an imam, whatever the reason was, but that's also permissible. That's also permissible. Okay? Now, is this something which is agreed upon? No, it's not. And in actual fact, it can be argued that the majority do not accept this. And we're going to go through all of these evidences individually. The real question is that do I do that now, or do I do that next week? Next week, huh? Yeah. I think so. I think Shazad Salim was just delighted by a 1 hour lesson. Type. Mesa hasn't even said a single thing. Why are you blaming Mesa for?
1 hour lesson.
Right, who's got questions, folks? Who's got questions? Yes, go ahead.
Just before you continue, I have a gift for me from Algeria.
You have a gift from Algeria?
Yeah.
Okay.
No one else has been it, so
How is that from Algeria, by the way? That's from around the corner, bro.
there's something on there. So
Oh, one second. Oh, hold on. There's some politics here. Look at these kids. They're like, we hit the jackpot. We came the right week. Right, ladies and gentlemen, this is a serious moment. Okay, folks? We have some... There's some... Oh, he came with...
just a knife to cut it.
That's a knife to cut it. Okay, that's fine. Okay. Oh my God. It's an absolute beast. All right. So there's something that's on this cake that needs to be... Oh, you absolute flipping fish. Allah Nakassam. This girl, she wants war, bro. Yeah. Oh, what a guy. Look at this. See? This is... so first of all, this is from... I just want to say... Unbelievable. Yeah, the best Sharam, she's taking the whole game to a different level. She wants war, bro. No, the question is, basically, I just want you to know, there's someone, I want to say that there is a lady out there who's gone beyond the red line. Gone beyond red line. And she's gone to war. She's declared war, basically, upon me. Yeah?
She has to realize when she's letting
She doesn't realize
to certain things.
that, listen, when you come at the king, you best not miss. I'm telling you, Widad, okay? Right? How does she even know that I'm going to give her satisfaction? Because there's a single person here that knows what's happening. Online, nobody knows what's happening. She's paid all of this money. I'm paying jack squat. I'll tell you right now. She wants us to... There's something that's basically on this cake right now that's going to make her very, very happy. Well, guess what?
Blackout, bro. Blackout.
Guess what? We're eating the cake. We're eating the cake. And what is she going to do about it? What's she gonna do about it? What's she gonna do about it? Nobody's seeing what's on the thingy. That's it. I just had something just in case someone had posted a picture or something. Listen, the question is that you want me to do my bestie or not?
We just want cake.
You just want cake. I'm just going to do a little bit of knife work.
Yeah.
Right? She's attacking me. That's what she's doing. Now the question is that do you guys want to see what she's attacking with, or do you just want cake? I just want cake. I just want cake. So if you just want cake, I'll give you cake. I'm gonna get. I'll get the knife.
This is breaking amana.
Breaking amana.
This is breaking amana.
Fully. No, but I also like that.
Permission.
But we gave her permission.
Okay, fair enough. Have the job.
We gave her access to a private situation in a thingy. And what she did is then she went from 0 to 100.
Because that has other repercussions as well.
But I also want to say, if I show it, then that gives me permission to do what needs to be done.
That's also true, but also if you show it, then you're going to have to. Understand?
If I show it, then what happens?
Then you basically lost that.
You have to show it now.
Time out.
Listen,
Time out.
listen.
Time out. Just come in and tell him it's there, man.
No, I'll listen to you.
I can't be bothered to go.
Have you seen it, by the way?
Yeah, I think it
It's out, to be honest.
No, it's not.
I want it in it.
No, I trust her 100%, bro. She ain't a skank like her. Oh, I'll delete that immediately. Yeah. Huh? Same on the other one. Alright, you know what it is? I'm a man of the people and I'll prove it right now. I'll prove it right now. She doesn't care about you. She doesn't care about you eating cake. She doesn't care one little bit. She only wanted to humiliate me. Alright? So now I ask you guys, do you want her plan to be executed or not? So if you say yes, put your hands up. That's amazing. There's not a single man with their hands up here, by the way. And so none of the sisters either. So Widad has lost fully. Widad, I want you to know, by the way, online. Okay. All right. Because there was a complete and utter loss, I don't mind showing you now. Okay? This is what.
What's this one?
It's the same one. It's the same thing. But it's all going to fall if we do it.
No, what's this cake from Lala?
Yeah, he you know what he did? He thought in case that she lets her down with a double yeah.
Man, I never hit.
Yeah.
Astaghfirullah.
Yeah.
What?
Did you hear what he said? He goes, I don't know what it is. That's basically.
Good old days.
That's what it is. You see? I want wow. Abu Dhar found this. Abu Dhar found it hilarious. Huh? No, it's okay. It's okay. I want you to know that what did you think that you were going to achieve, Yani, by this? That's the real question. What was going to be achieved? This handsome young fellow. Well, I'm not ashamed of it. That's okay. They're the ones that we're going to eat, don't worry. So there you go. She was able to get hold of this photo by illegal means.
Not illegal.
And this is the extent of her thingy. I would say that she failed. No. How did she not fail? How did she not fail? Not only did she fail, but oh my God, how she has opened herself up for the game to be over in the next few weeks. That's it. It's end of story. And was it worth it is the question. That's what Widad has to sleep and think about for the next few weeks. Was it really worth it as we stuff ourselves now? Huh? I'll let you guys be the judge of that. Solange, may Allah bless her. Who is that? She still doesn't understand what's going on. All right.
There you go.
All right, we're gonna have cake, folks. Right? No questions. We're good. Everything done. Khalas. We can end that's on that note. You can. Why don't you? We'll do this part because there seems to be twice as many sisters as thingy. And Jazakumullah khair. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha anta astaghfiruka Allahumma wa atubu ilayk. What a complete and utter waste of money. Unbelievable. I'm gonna eat that with such yani maza. It's untrue. All right, folks. Yallah. What a waste of 10 minutes.